Most people believe the gas chambers were Nazi Germany's primary method of execution. They weren't. Between 1933 and 1945, the regime perfected dozens of killing techniques, many designed not just to end life, but to terrorize entire populations. Public executions became theatrical displays of power. What happened in town squares across occupied Europe remains one of history's darkest chapters. The legal facade began the moment Hitler seized power in 1933. Courts became weapons. Judges transformed into executioners wearing robes. The Nazis understood something crucial. Terror worked best when it looked legitimate. The Reichstag fire decree came first. Emergency powers that never ended. Constitutional rights vanished overnight. Protective custody meant indefinite detention, no charges required, no trials necessary. People disappeared into the system. Special courts emerged across Germany. The People's Court handled political cases. Roland Freisler presided with theatrical rage. He screamed at defendants, humiliated them publicly. Verdicts were predetermined. Death sentences became routine. Between 1934 and 1945, the People's Court issued over 5,000 death penalties. The Enabling Act stripped away remaining legal protections. Hitler could create laws without parliamentary approval. Treason definitions expanded constantly. Speaking against the regime meant death. Listening to foreign radio meant death. Helping Jews meant death. The ground for mass murder was already being prepared. Each new law normalized execution. Each court ruling made death ordinary. The legal system didn't resist the transformation. It embraced it. Lawyers and judges became willing participants. Justice died long before the gas chambers opened. The machinery of murder wore judicial robes first. Death as theater transformed execution into public spectacle. The Nazis understood the power of forced witness. Making people watch created collective trauma. Shared fear meant shared silence. Public hangings happened in town squares. Gallows stood where markets once operated. Entire communities received orders to attend. Factory workers marched from their shifts. School children lined up in formation. Absence meant suspicion. Suspicion meant danger. Plötzensee prison became a killing theater. The execution chamber held 8 meat hooks mounted on rails. Victims hung from piano wire instead of rope. Death came slowly. Strangulation took minutes, sometimes longer. Guards documented everything. Cameras captured the agony. Hitler demanded films of the July 20th conspirators' executions. He wanted to watch them die. The footage showed men struggling as wire cut into their necks. Their bodies convulsed, their faces turned purple. The Führer reportedly viewed the films repeatedly. In occupied territories, public executions reached new extremes. Partisans hung from lampposts. Bodies remained displayed for days. Warning signs hung around their necks. Photographs were mandatory. Local populations forced to file past the corpses. Control was everything. Fear became a weapon more powerful than bullets. The spectacle served a purpose. Resistance died when hope died. Public execution killed both simultaneously. The killing squads followed the Wehrmacht into Soviet territory in June 1941. 4 Einsatzgruppen units deployed behind the advancing front lines. Each commanded between 600 and 1,000 men. Their mission was explicit: total elimination of Jewish populations and political enemies. The operations followed a brutal pattern. Units entered villages and towns. They rounded up entire communities. Victims marched to ravines, forests, or ditches outside settlements. Mass graves were pre-dug. Sometimes, victims dug their own. Babi Yar became the most documented massacre. September 29th and 30th, 1941. 33,771 Jews murdered in 2 days. They lined up at the ravine edge. Machine guns fired continuously. Bodies fell into the gorge. The next group stepped forward. The scale overwhelmed human comprehension. Einsatzgruppe A reported 229,522 executions by February 1942. Einsatzgruppe D killed over 90,000 by April. The numbers kept climbing. Methods evolved for efficiency. Victims stood at pit edges. Shooters aimed for the back of the head. Children went first, then women, then men. The process repeated village after village, town after town. Gas vans appeared when shooting proved too slow. Victims loaded into sealed trucks, exhaust fumes pumped inside. Death took 10 to 15 minutes, bodies dumped in mass graves upon arrival. The psychological toll on killers became a concern for commanders, not moral objection. Operational efficiency, alcohol rations increased, rotation schedules implemented, the killing continued regardless. By 1943, the Einsatzgruppen had murdered over 1.3 million people. Mobile death squads proved the concept. Industrial genocide would perfect it. The transition was already underway. The death factories represented the final evolution of Nazi execution methods. What began as legal persecution transformed into industrial annihilation. 6 extermination camps operated across occupied Poland: Auschwitz-Birkenau, Treblinka, Sobibor, Belzec, Chelmno, Majdanek. The system functioned with corporate efficiency. Trains arrived on schedules. Selections happened immediately. Those deemed fit for labor went right. Everyone else went left. Left meant death within hours. Deception maintained order. Signs promised showers and delousing. Victims undressed in changing rooms. Numbered hooks suggested belongings would be returned. Guards urged people to remember their numbers. None of it mattered. Gas chambers disguised as shower facilities held up to 2,000 people. Zyklon B pellets dropped through roof vents. Cyanide gas filled the sealed rooms. Death took between 3 and 20 minutes, depending on proximity to the vents. Sonderkommandos extracted the bodies. They searched for gold teeth, cut hair for industrial use, removed jewelry hidden in body cavities. Corpses moved to crematoria on conveyor systems. 5 ovens operated continuously at Auschwitz. Burning bodies took hours initially. Engineers improved efficiency. The scale defied comprehension. Auschwitz murdered over 1 million people. Treblinka killed 870,000. Belzec eliminated 434,000. The numbers represented individual human beings, each with names, families, dreams. Documentation survived despite destruction attempts. Ledgers tracked arrivals. Engineers filed improvement reports. Commanders sent efficiency updates to Berlin. The bureaucracy of genocide left paper trails. The death factories operated until Soviet forces approached. Guards attempted to destroy evidence. They demolished gas chambers, burned documents. Forced death marches evacuated remaining prisoners. The machinery of murder collapsed. The horror remained. Cruelty without purpose defined the regime's final months. Defeat became inevitable. The killing intensified anyway. Revenge consumed what remained of Nazi leadership. Resistance fighters faced immediate execution. No trials, no documentation. Summary justice in streets and forests. Entire villages destroyed for partisan activity. Collective punishment reached new extremes. The regime documented its own brutality obsessively. Cameras recorded hangings of resistance members, films sent to Berlin for review, evidence of loyalty through savagery, proof of commitment to the cause. Death marches evacuated concentration camps as Allied forces advanced. Guards shot prisoners too weak to continue. Thousands died on roadsides. The war was lost. The murders continued. Executions happened until the final hours. Berlin bunker personnel killed deserters. SS units murdered civilians accused of defeatism. White flags meant death. Surrender meant death. The system collapsed into pure violence. The world confronted evil when Allied forces liberated the camps in 1945. Soldiers found mountains of corpses, survivors barely alive. The scale exceeded imagination. Eisenhower ordered comprehensive documentation. Photographers captured everything. Film crews recorded testimony. Evidence gathered for tribunals. The world needed proof. Denial would come otherwise. Nuremberg trials began November 1945. 24 major defendants faced justice. 12 received death sentences. Executions carried out October 1946. Hermann Göring cheated the gallows with cyanide hours before his scheduled hanging. Subsequent trials prosecuted doctors, judges, industrialists, and Einsatzgruppen commanders. 14 Einsatzgruppen leaders hanged at Landsberg prison. Justice remained incomplete. Thousands of perpetrators escaped accountability. The documentation survived, testimonies preserved, the methods revealed. From legal persecution to public spectacle to industrial genocide, humanity learned what civilization could become when law transformed into terror. The lesson remains: evil requires only permission to flourish.